So there were Weathersfield police who attached me to fake conversations with themselves as a kid and then as an adult, fake being at the police station and then as an adult. And then they pretended that through the news to hide life progressions. With people that went to schools I went that were putting fake things in databases who also have collusion slash S with intelligence at and next to news locations. And the difference of that, too, people going by. And so WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. They attached me to fake ties to a doctor as a kid that weren't at all. Fake mental diagnosis by a Leahy family and other families with Institute of Living that have been attaching kids to fake ties to others, fake natures of ties to others. They've been putting fake and changed uses of drugs and alcohol, putting in the context fake uses of their roles, pertaining to be about behavior, and there are all kinds of behavior racketeering, worse than war crimes, with their family members, putting fake motivations for how and why their people are next to each other, as timed collusions with a whole bunch of other countries, and they confess to that right where they're not supposed to. This is also because we're in how everyone's speaking through others is a part of groupthink, which is only semi-correct. We're in how the news reported that the experts on the intelligence reported groupthink involved with it. There is predicate acts with fact stacking in databases with people that pretended passions and emotions that I don't know at all. That when I first met them, they pretended passions and emotions to put a fake background. And then they're telling fake things behind my back. And they were increasingly involved with some untimely deaths and murders intercities on and off campuses and confessions rules that were brought up at the same time, as were people involved before the World Trade Center attack with the various courts and their intimate ties and family members and people with the names next to them. There's different natures of conjunction to them who were involved with predicate acts against me. The FBI with all sides of criminal and civil cases through time. And before the World Trade Center attack, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his lawyer, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed to other people and non-verbally to me in 2006 district court case. They have collusions with a bunch of people from Weathersfield, intercities, and next to the news locations involved with predicate acts with them. Also at campuses and with their family members and neighbors, with a Thaddeus Grabowski, involved with Mendez police, involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids. I don't know him at all. He tried to make a fake exception right before a 2006 district court case where he demonstrated with people with the name Domain that he has rules with Allison Mulcahy at that right before a 2006 district court case in New Haven District Court with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and co-defendants of his. Thaddeus Grabowski, for example, is involved next to Fox Connecticut News with them, increasingly with names at those locations next to Fox Connecticut News, as roles with people that are directly and indirectly involved with stacking predicate acts with facts and other natures of organized crimes, with evidences and uses of descriptions of names and of instances that were timed collusions also with a whole bunch of other countries and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and now terrorists too. And I was an observer in the court, in the Ninth Circuit Court, for example, right before the World Trade Center attack. And others were tasked to change communications about that and faked communications about that, including with me. My whole family was tasked to fake and change communications about that. And with me, with themselves. And this is where people consciously prevent mandated law to legitimately follow because they had collusion /S. And they need to pretend other while having been used remotely. They are shown they need to pretend other. It's not by accident they pretended people need to have faith in the branch of government. When nature itself is showing the breaching method and the ourselves distinctly. How our three branches of government, the names of the people, the sciences, from off those locations, but then further hyper additionally as collusions that can't defend that and afford to be, let alone to protract short words proper. In other words, so a whole bunch of people from Wethersfield, Connecticut will tell you, but you have to ask them properly. They're forced, checked, hurt, and persuaded to collusions with mayors, senators, their family members, judges, prosecutors, their family members, with all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slanders, and relative delusions that we can observe. But we have to appreciate the hyper-evidential, like how we have black people's whites of eyes. In other words, and how a breaching method reassigned communications with that. And assigned all to roles sensing if anyone tries to use nature's revelations and what it communicates to us. And like what we all think. Still, we have people that jump into pretending they disagree with what we think for different reasons, dishonestly. So because they have roles with on a mass scale at all locations in World Wide Web. People are saying they're doing whatever, anything to keep, because already the differences of guilt of the three branches of government, the intelligence tied to them, overt criminal enterprises, private ones over the news involved with relative predicate acts and predicate acts methods, like wire crime methods with their phones too, that are multi-front with the stories, with subject treatments leaving out exception nature, and with their roles preventing mandated law. Connecticut's news locations are recording, confessing, demonstrating, and confirming that they offensively prevent mandated law. And they play roles seeding fake things into the record and change things so they could cover up having used and using all natures of investigations, investigators, criminally foreign influence, tactically collusions raw. People with the names Perone and Kerr will record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have roles in the intelligence community at the corner of Sostine Highway and Town Line Drive. Involved also with people next to Fox Connecticut News through time, involved with child abusers, leaders of kids first forced. I never saw them on a campus in my life. There was one exception with Mike Kerr. They try to make a fake exception so they could pretend I don't remember things. As their roles of people on the judicial branch offices in conjunctive to it, who have been planting evidences with the World Trade Center attack, interstates, and with conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut, like with Wethersfield Pizza House, involved also with the educators of them, with identity theft, fraud, slanders. A Mark Violet has foreign and domestic military, involved with my neighbors that were influenced them to repeat the names Maria Vazino and Joshua Julian to me. I never saw Maria Vazino on a Wethersfield campus in my life. A Stephen Stocko, I never had a word of conversation with him, or I never took part with the constant bullying that looked like all three, them and Stocko were collusions with, but like he was acting. They have roles with police forms and acting professors. And involved with New Britain, a whole bunch of people from the Britain's Connecticut State University, involved with the judicial branch offices and corrections offices, with sexual and medical offenders, with names on Park Street, but I mean also in Church Street in Old Wethersfield, who are involved with all kinds of federal evidences, crimes, natures of identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fake motivations planting as roles with a whole bunch of countries at the same time. Overt criminal enterprises, and as people roles with the terrorists. There's a Heather Hansen there's a Heather Hansen and Elena Davenport, who are John DiMauro and others recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed, but also collusions with a Mr. Abruzzi, my fifth grade teacher. Increasingly involved with people with body dumping spots and murders and untimely deaths that have time collusions years apart too, where they were used/excessively recorded, including on Facebook. And they took my Facebook page to hide what's actually recorded. No, there are judges and prosecutors and their family members and roles with all natures of crime scenes and next to them through time and fake motivations. A whole bunch of different countries. There's a whole bunch of natures of organized crime methods, predicate acts methods, wire crime acts methods. The people with the phones have distinctly from the people with digital crimes with a principal upskirt nature, as the ones with the intelligence next to places where WTNH did stories on corners of streets. They have roles with their sources at those spots, with very like along Route 175 and its conjunctions. People are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. Has something to do with people with intermilitary, including the Air Force, involved with Paul Kelly, I believe his name is. He doesn't know me. He was influenced to make all these confessions real fast in front of me. I never had a response to him. And his neighbors don't know me either. They're increasingly involved with judges and prosecutors and their family members with behavior crimes, fake motivations, screening their actual motivations, which has something to do with their roles with town lines, intercities, and names with the interbranch forging and switching names, because they have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, lying about themselves and others into records too, and the whole fake transcripts they put at Harvard Hospital. A bunch of people at Harvard Hospital are recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirmed. They have people named Colello, O'Brien, and Smith. Colello and Smith still have families next to me, partially involved, partially with their roles with other areas and their locations with the managers. What is now Stop and Shop. And another stop, but it used to be other places. It's the shopping centers themselves. Their roles with the location / as being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence / hyper criminally foreign influence. And the news locations are confessing and demonstrating this while they're pretending other. Also because they have obligations to get me off the fake conversations with themselves, me with themselves, WFSB, and me with others. They put fake conversations with me with doctors too. When I was a kid and I was an adult, I swear to God, I had no conversations with doctors. They use the right to lie that they're not supposed to speak about conversations with their patients and pretend they had conversations with them. They forge other doctors' names and put whole fake conversations and fake behavior. No. And they bring up people speaking about their family members' names of all ages and natures. No, these are other natures of organized crimes they had at the same time recorded with the principal upskirt nature. And with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with the Harper courts and with their family members. And people associated with this. There are more people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They're involved with mayors and with sexual and medical offenders of kids, involved with identity thefts and frauds and putting fake things in databases. With a Michelle Sanquest, since she was a kid, as one of the names further, as the educators further with the principal upskirt nature, with further worse natures of organized crimes. That he and that she and other people who are involved with intercampuses and at the corners of those streets. WTNH recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming. Intelligence families that used to live near me and still here. They have roles planting evidences with the corners of the streets on the principal sex offenders camp street, on Highcrest Street, putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. A Rick C. and Faglione recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people with the name Brendan Leahy and people with the name Leahy, men and women, involved also with a Brian Silver, men and women with New Britain Superior Court, involved also with Covington Street in the sides of Central Connecticut State University, involved with people with identity theft, fraud, slanders. Paul Zano, I never hung around with him. They tried to make fake exceptions about filming me at Central. He was influenced to be around me, but we had no communication. I don't know if they pretended other. At Central Connecticut State University and at Trinity College, before I ever went there. He's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a whole bunch of people too, with the Park Street locations, like this people with the Daryl Sullivan is involved with people at next to the sides of Central Connecticut State University, with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin with his codependents and with their family members and neighbors, also involved with state police, families, interstates, with time collusions with foreign and domestic military, and people with roles with the borders, passions and emotions, faking people as time collusions, people from those states on our side, and people from the other side who have time collusions because there have been differences, rackets here and there since before our founders were born, and where the campuses are manifest, the names of the people, the sciences, and where there are exceptions, that was exploited too, where they are trying to hide how they have to fake past exceptions, and they have to have homeschool themed family running where they have overt criminal enterprises and terrorist themed fact treatment nature, quality aspects of nature, running for mental health evaluation locations, involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes and relative delusions, with people involved at the state judicial branch offices next to it, who will tell you if you ask them correctly, they never had a conversation with me in their life. And when they try to make fake ties to me, it was demonstrable. They're influenced to repeat fake things in databases and acts tied to that as relative predicate acts. And so John DiMauro also made confessions about abuses sexually and medically and other with overt criminal enterprises on grammar school girls and middle school girls and boys, where they're putting fake ties and fake natures of ties between people into grammar schools, pretended into databases, and then building on that in middle schools, people still don't know each other and why and how they're lying about that too. As time collusions with a whole bunch of different countries. The ones named DiMauro said it has to do with their rules with people from Korea, and that were involved with them with their confessions of rules with some black KKK theme, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, and overt criminal enterprises, and people making confessions for for people at my campuses, off campuses, my educators. See, these are people involved with the intelligence community that also have rules with Saudis. They force the collusions, and the difference of the guilt. That doesn't mean our side's collusion. All sides were our collusion. These are people involved with the differences, rackets, since before I was born. In other words, it's a whole bunch of ways recorded. Joshua Julian is one of the ones involved also with the Joshua Schumacher with Wethersfield Police Facebook page, involved with digital crimes with Whiting Forensics Facebook page, and with the Principal Upskirt Nature's campus Facebook page. Also with the kids and adults of community of intelligence families, and further with the campuses. There are ones with the name O'Neill. I don't even know them. They're bringing their kids into their roles with wire crimes with Saudis too, at Whiting Forensics. That says that there's a Phil Colello involved with them too, with that, with more sexual and medical offenders of kids and relative delusions they have too. They don't notice themselves. But we could delineate their delusions from their criminal foreign influence, fact, cheap nature, quiet aspects, and natures of collusion then and ongoing, because all that is the same people involved with the World Trade Center predicate acts. Before the World Trade Center, the FBI and the courts and foreign and domestic military had made recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed things to me relative to things that were confessed to me years before that. There is syntax regarding Joe DiMauro and a Ray Colello that were planting evidences and trying to use truths for lies and sequence shifts regarding the serial killer body dumping spot reported. And that serial killer himself that had time collusions with their extended family members. One's named Scalora, too, involved with digital crimes, with sexual and medical offenders of kids and names next to the campuses, including increasingly people with Institute of Living on the campus of Harvard Hospital and other hospitals. The differences of the psychiatry and that has roles with the intelligence community, like with this Ray Colello and his father, Ray Colello, and women in their family involved with multiple police departments with this Colello family. I mean, with the Bryans and people with the name Smith. And this is how they start fights, too. the interbranch, switching and forging names. They brought this up. They're not getting it on paper because they're lying about what they think the motivations. They have a whole bunch of different countries involved at the same time, and people at and next to each of the campuses I went to, including, in other words, including since I was the youngest kid. There are people with Mendez next to a Montessori school. I love that school. I just protested so hard on the first day because I was really going to try to get out of having to go to school. I was trying to be that hard. But didn't last. It was nice school. But in other words, any little thing like that they put in databases, others will exploit it consciously. But to an extent unconsciously too, while having been used remotely, criminally for an influence / hyper-criminally for an influence. I'm not a lawyer, thank God, because there are 2 collusions recorded, planting fake motivations, even real ones used to hide the fake ones. Like Trantolo has collusion /S with Connecticut Judicial branch offices and the corrections offices, and names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. Involved also them with the intelligence next to WFSB in Rocky Hill, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, and next to Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut's Fox 61 News in Hartford, and next to WTNH in New Haven, Connecticut, which is right next to the FBI note too, because their Facebook page is also involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids and fake integrity and hiding behind the walls of many nations. That's why they're going to have to get onto paper, one name and sequence. They're influencing in other words, they recorded themselves influencing Facebook, but Facebook also influenced them because they have people involved also with their campuses. In other words, the best and worst campuses too. The difference of that is used. The names of the people, the sciences. Note that phrase at the beginning of the Old Testament too, which says only defend right here. How come the beginning of the Old Testament says only defend right here? And the people don't even know that. But they pretend passions and emotions about care for anybody. Anyway, see, there's a difference between using passions and emotions like with black people's whites of eyes, behind what is truth always, where it is denied. We're supposed to see the whites of eyes. We're supposed to see cipher to be deciphered because our founders did not have free speech. They declassified this. Instead, this preaching method measures and maintains self-value roles with uses of our founders' words, leaving out how they didn't have free speech, leaving out how and why, and they were used of /S that as collusion /S to an extent, /S with the breaching method against themselves and against everyone else. Syntactically, therefore physically, and or that body would be sensed, including if as a majority of people, including if as everyone, from a colony, state, country, as long as locations, areas, and states still entertained, what has been entertained since ancient times, prepare the minds, the human species body of individual bodies to discern that which generates all differences, and how all exceptions, exception nature, come with demonstration /S of the same thing. Thank you.